Welcome to episode 6 of Selling Smart with Senior Market Advisors. Today we will be going over recent changes regarding the opioid crisis and how they affect Medicare beneficiaries, and then we're going to bring on Keith Hinson to take a deep dive into the basics of final expense and why you should be selling it. And now time for an SMA Value Add. Looking for extra marketing support? SMA Storefront is your one-stop shop for all your marketing needs. Use SMA's Agent Storefront to customize marketing materials, like posters and business cards. Download sales trainings, white papers, and more. SMA Storefront gives you the ability to customize marketing materials with your contact information, so they are one of a kind. Order banners, posters, and giveaways directly from Storefront. Continue your knowledge on sales techniques by viewing the Building Your Business video series and downloading Medicare-related white papers. Customize your marketing, educate yourself, and get the tools you need to succeed, all with SMA Storefront. Interested in learning more? Visit us online at www.seniormarketadvisors.com/podcast or give us a call at 844-334-6066. All right, everyone, we are so excited to have Keith Hinson on the podcast today. He's actually been on our podcast before, so this is, I believe, his second time on the podcast. So welcome, Keith. Can you just give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Thank you, Sarah. As you said, my name is Keith Hinson. I'm the Vice President of Life and Ancillary Sales here at Senior Market Advisors. A little background on myself. I've been in the insurance business now for going on right at 20 years. So hopefully I'll have some information that I can share today on the podcast.
Thanks so much, Keith. And now we bring you Disruptive Waves.
We wanted to start today off by talking about how the opioid crisis is changing the policies for Medicare Part D plans. And by now, you've likely heard about how many individuals in the country are affected by the opioid crisis, and this includes Medicare beneficiaries.
Yeah, it's actually really hard to find someone these days who hasn't been affected by the opioid crisis. Even my cousin was in and out of rehab for prescription opioid abuse for years. Luckily, she's clean now, so that's really nice. But it's really hard to watch her go through that, and there's just so many other Medicare beneficiaries that are going through the same thing.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that CMS is doing what they can to try and help.
Yeah, agreed. So with that, CMS recently released a blog on their website last month discussing the policies that they have put in place to combat the issue. So we're going to be breaking down a few of those for you today. So since Medicare covers a significant portion of prescription opioids, we felt it was really important to go through some of those changes just so you guys are all aware.
Yeah, and please note that these policies are not a one-size-fits-all approach, and they don't apply to long-term care facility residents, beneficiaries in hospice or other end-of-life care, or beneficiaries being treated for cancer-related pain.
Okay, so Medicare drug plans will now need to send pharmacies alerts to review certain opioid prescriptions before they are filled. And this could happen in cases like the beneficiaries prescribed an amount that exceeds a certain amount. This is the first time the beneficiary is prescribed the opioid, so they may be limited to a 7-day supply or less if it's a new prescription. And the last one is that the beneficiary is prescribed both opioids and benzodiazepines at the same time, as both of those together can be dangerous. So if the prescription is unable to be filled as written, the pharmacist will give the beneficiary a notice to contact their plan for a coverage determination to see if the plan will cover the drug.
And as an agent, make sure that you're aware of these changes and that you do your part to help make sure beneficiaries get the right plan for their needs.
So just note that this change primarily affects Medicare drug plans and doesn't affect agents directly. It's really not something that you need to be too focused on. It's just a change that we really wanted to make sure that you guys are all aware of.
All aboard!
The Knowledge Train!
Choo-choo!
All right, so today we are going to be going over why you should be selling final expense. As we mentioned, we have our very own Keith Hinson on the podcast today to kind of share his expertise on this issue. So Keith, why don't we just dive right in and start off with the most simple question. Why should someone be selling final expense?
Well, Sarah, there's lots of reasons that come to mind when we're talking about the different reasons you would want to sell final expense. Maybe the first thing I want to touch on, when we're new in the industry, you start and you get all this information thrown at you. It can be a little bit overwhelming. So probably the first reason is it's simple. It's just not hard to understand. So if you're new in the industry and you're looking to get started, it is a quick, simple, easy to understand product that enables you to get out and hit the street, and get up and running really fast. So that would be the first reason. Second reason I would talk about is limited underwriting, especially as a new agent. Underwriting can be a little bit daunting when you're getting out into fully underwritten cases. You don't know what health conditions to look for, and you end up submitting a lot of business that then in turn gets kicked back, and you do a lot of work that you might not have to. So final expense, there's very limited underwriting. In fact, some of them you don't have any underwriting. So it takes a lot of that learning curve and kind of puts it at bay while your skill set is catching up, but you still have the ability to make some money. And then, another reason is not necessarily an agent reason. It's actually the consumer. So there are some people that they get out and they're wanting some life insurance, but maybe they have some health concerns and they don't think they can get through that traditional underwriting that I mentioned. Maybe they don't need very much. There's lots of people that get life insurance or final expense policies that maybe they're only $5,000 or $10,000. And a traditional fully underwritten life plan, most of them will have a limit of about $100,000. And then, there are people like myself. I just hate needles, and I will pay a little bit more, so you don't have to come out and stick me. So that's a good reason also. Another reason is upfront money. Now, not all the time, but a good percentage of the time, depending upon your contract, you get your entire or a big portion of your first year's commission up front. And since final expense, the majority of your commission will be paid out in the first year. That can help with your cash flow circumstances when you're getting started in the industry. Another great reason for final expense is compliance concerns. If you're in the insurance space, depending on what your concentration is, if you're dealing in the MA space, which is Medicare Advantage, or the Part D drug plan space, you're heavily regulated by CMS, and it really controls how you can market. Well, with final expense, you don't have those constraints. So what that means, now we still have to pay attention to the do not call registry, but you're allowed to reach out and contact people directly. You can walk up to them and ask them about final expense. When you're in the house and you finish the presentation, you're actually allowed to directly ask for referrals, which can help grow your business quickly as well. Another reason is final expense is easy to cross-sell. It pairs well with a variety of senior products. Not just touching before on the MA side of the business and CMS, you can't sell final expense while you're on an MA appointment. But excluding that, you're allowed to put, say, a cancer plan with final expense. If they already have, let's say, a supplement, maybe you go out and talk to them. Final expense will pair well with that. So it's just a good way to either market your existing book or when you're out talking about other things. It's just a good thing to always tie together with the other products that you're able to offer. And then lastly, and at least for our company, whose mission statement is to serve the underserved, it fills a valuable need. A lot of the individuals that you'll be out talking with about final expense are those that will need it most. So when that time comes, they will actually be able to make sure that those final expenses are taken care of, and some individuals even choose to leave a small legacy if they so choose.
Wow, that was a lot of fantastic reasons. I definitely can see why people should be selling final expense after that was only a couple minutes. So wow, that sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Keith. Okay, so let's just go back to the very basics. For those of us, like even myself, who don't have any background in what final expense is, can you just briefly touch on what is final expense?
Absolutely. Final expense is really just that. It's to help you cover any of your final expenses. Some people might have heard it called a burial policy, but let's not get caught up in the term burial policy. Individuals have lots of other needs than just being buried in the end. Sometimes you may want to leave a legacy to a child or a grandchild. You may have unpaid bills. Maybe there's other expenses other than the burial. You want to fly people in from out of town. So end of the day, that's really what it is. It's just to take care of those bills, when we reach our end of life, so that our loved ones don't have to foot or incur those expenses.
And now time for an SMA Value Add. Struggling to generate your own leads? SMA generates leads for our agents in a variety of ways. We receive leads from our trusted carrier partners, we can host CMS-approved events in your area, and design, print, and mail marketing materials from our in-house print shop. SMA is a technology-driven company, and we know the future is digital. That's why we are constantly expanding our online presence across all platforms, utilizing lead generation efforts such as social media, targeted landing pages, digital advertising, email marketing, and more. Want to learn more about Senior Market Advisors? Visit us online at www.seniormarketadvisors.com or give us a call at 844-334-6066. So is there only one type of final expense, or is there different types that agents can be selling?
Well, Sarah, that's a excellent question. So let me do the best I can to kind of break down the different types of final expense. And not all carriers are going to offer all types, but you'll at least know what's available out in the market. So there's really four main types. There's what I call, or what's called true guaranteed issue. And for that particular type of plan, there are absolutely no medical questions whatsoever. Not medical question one, not even brought up. The only thing you really need is their address, name, and their banking information, and you're good. Now, with those type plans, whatever the face amount is, if for whatever reason that individual was to pass in some type of an accident, it will go ahead and pay out the full face amount. However, if they were to pass from anything relating to a sickness, usually within the first 2 years, you're going to get usually the premiums that you've paid in plus some percent of that money that you paid in. So at a minimum, they'll end up getting the premiums they put in plus a little bit. Kind of the next step up from that is known as modified, and this is the beginning of what most people might call true final expense versus a guaranteed issue policy. And it's really the same as a guaranteed issue. Really, the only difference is they actually have to answer a few medical questions, and they likely will get a better rate, at least across the board, than what they would do in a true guarantee issue type circumstance. All right, so after modified, what's next? It's called graded. And basically, you just continue to answer more medical questions. So maybe instead of 2 questions or 3 questions, maybe you answer 5 questions. And the way it's set up, same thing or same scenario. If you were to pass from an accident of any type, you would go ahead and get the full face amount from day one. But if you were to pass from some type of sickness, the death benefit that you get goes up each year that you have the policy. So just as an example, the first year, if you were to pass from a sickness, maybe you would get 30% of the face amount. If you were to pass from year 1 to year 2, you would get, say, 70% of the face amount. And then usually once you get past 2+ years, you're fine and you would get the full face amount, whether that be for sickness or accident. And then the last level, which is pretty self-explanatory, is called level or level issue. And that's really the best rate for final expense category. You still have even more health questions. However, you still don't have an exam or blood work. You basically answer the medical questions, and then they may pull some reports from the MIB and maybe a prescription check. But you get the full face amount immediately. Day one, sickness or accident, you would have that death benefit available next day. And that's really, in a nutshell, the different types of final expense products.
Awesome. So in listening to what you just said, I just thought of a question. You mentioned a bunch of health questions. As you go up the line, there's more and more health questions. If someone is in poor health, is their rate going to go up, or how does that work exactly?
All right, so final expense, it's actually set up pretty neat. So most final expense insurance applications, they'll have, say, a single page that has questions from top to bottom that are health questions, and they will usually be segmented out as like section 1, 2, and 3, maybe A, B, and C, whatever it might be. So you start in the first section, and it's yes, no, usually. If you hit yes, then they don't qualify for that policy, and you would go automatically to a true guaranteed issue policy. If you get all the way to section 2, and then you check something, you would only qualify for the modified policy. If you get all the way to section 3 and you were to check a health question, then you would be eligible for the graded benefit or the graded level plan. And if you manage to get through all the health questions, that you would qualify for the level plan. So it's really easy to step through the process and know what to sell individuals.
Awesome. So if anyone listening is interested in selling final expense, Keith, how would they contact you, or where would they get more information?
Absolutely. The easiest way, feel free, you can call me. My direct line is 615-944-3300. Or feel free to reach out to me via email. That's Hinson, that's KHINSON, at seniormarketadvisors.com, and that's with an O, and it's plural. So it's Hinson at seniormarketadvisors.com.
Awesome. Really good information today, Keith. Definitely feel like I understand final expense a little bit better than when I started. So hopefully you all listening feel the same way. So then thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I've enjoyed being here.
And now, ending on a positive note.
To end it on a positive note, we had a submission from one of our agents named Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
So Jessica's going to go ahead and read what he wrote. Just note that the names have been changed for privacy purposes.
Yes, so Michael wrote, I want to share the story of a special client. I represent an ISNP, which is short for Institutional Special Needs Plan, and recently enrolled a client named Stephanie. She has been living in a nursing home for several years, even though she's only in her 50s. You see, she has cerebral palsy. Many things stand out about Stephanie. First, she was worried that going into a nursing home meant that no one would ever visit her anymore. Happily, she has found that wasn't true, and her family still visits her on a regular basis. Secondly, she told me that she loves to read and always has at least one book with her at all times. Third, she is also a writer and poet. She has written over 200 wonderful poems to date and would like to publish them someday, but it can cost a lot of money to get published. Finally, and what is most amazing, is her smile and spirit. I look forward to driving an hour and a half to the nursing home just to see her. I thought I was helping her by providing a comprehensive healthcare plan to cover all of her needs. And in the end, she has helped me be more grateful, inspired, and dedicated to serving others. Maybe one day the world will be reading her poems. Oh, that was so sweet.
Very sweet.
Yes.
And that's truly serving the underserved right there.
Yeah.
Makes me really happy. And that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, it gave me the warm fuzzies.
Mm-hmm. So definitely a motivational story. Thank you so much, Michael, for your submission. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, that's all, folks. Thanks, everyone, for joining us this week, as usual. Just wanted to check in, though, Jessica. I know last week we did our setting smart goals. How are your goals going so far?
They're going really well, actually. I beat or I met my goal before my date. So I gained 3 pounds of muscle in half the time that I had for myself. So
nice.
Yeah, and I can definitely tell I played soccer yesterday and just everything is my endurance is up, and I feel good.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did pretty well this weekend. My mom was in town, and I still worked out half the time she was there. I didn't do my workout every day, which was not good, but I did still work out while she was there. So I was still proud of myself for that. So
Yay, us.
yeah, goal setting. Hey, it's
Yeah.
nice to have those goals written down. It's
So
helping.
true.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Want to be featured on the podcast? Share your story with us at www.seniormarketadvisors.com/podcast. We appreciate you joining us this week on
Selling Smart.
with Senior Market Advisors.